Hey everybody, in today's video I'm going to show you through my old pedal board. It has been a long time since I've opened this. I don't do much live playing anymore, mainly just teaching and making content for the channel here, but I thought I'd show you I guess a couple of memories from what I used to drag around with me all over the place. As you can see, it's been around the world with me a few times, been through some airport security. Now I want to show you this quickly because this is kind of cool. I was given this by my friend and guitar teacher at the time, Nigel Hendroff, and then this was his old pedal board, and it was modded by our mutual friend Timon Klein, who he's an incredible guitarist, they both are, and did a lot of playing together over the years. And it's been a long time since I've opened this, so I'm going to be just probably as surprised as you are when I open this up. So let's get this open. Okay, and that's right. Okay, so first of all, this is something I've had for a very long time. Let me, a bit of mess in here. Yeah, this isn't even wired up. That's how long it's been since I've actually plugged in and used any of it. Now, since, how long ago would it have been? 2008 maybe? I've had one of these Gigrig switches. Now, the tech's changed a lot since I had this one. This is the Gigrig, the Midi 8. Which was, they had at the time they had a Midi 8, and then they had the Pro 14, which was a little bit bigger and had obviously 8 because you've got the 8 foot switches here with 6 loops, the final one being a stereo loop. So if you've got the modulation or delay pedal that can sit in that last loop, you can do a stereo output from there. I didn't really use too many stereo pedals. I often used to use the more of a dual mono setup, which is where you send two of the same thing to two separate amps. But that was, you still use two outputs, but you're not really using a stereo pedal there. So yeah, I've had this for a long time. I did have to get it switched out once because one of the guitarists from Porcupine Tree, who was a Gigrig artist over here, came to tour in Australia, and his Gigrig had gotten damaged on the flight over, and so I actually had to, Daniel reached out to me and said, can I have someone pick your switcher up to give to him because they're about to do a tour, and then I'll send you a new one. So that, that worked out. And so this is actually, I guess it's not the original one because that one got switched out and given to someone else on tour, so I'd forgotten about that till just now. But yeah, this thing has been like rock solid for the whole time I've had it. Obviously you can get newer versions of it now, but if you happen to find one or you're interested in having a loop switcher put on your board, then highly recommend. First pedal here is a Crybaby wah. Now this is just a standard Crybaby. There's nothing too crazy about this. As you can see there, GCB 95. It's been a little bit scratched up over the years. We did travel. We'll do that to pedals. I don't use wah a lot, but it is helpful, especially if you're doing wedding band gigs or you're trying to do any something in the studio where you use a wah. It wasn't a huge part of what I did. The next cool pedal that I've got, which I don't talk about much actually, is this Freeze pedal. This is by Electro Harmonics. This is really cool. So it's like a lo-fi, it's kind of like having a pad setting for your guitar. You can either have it on a latch setting, which is where you sort of click it once and it will hold that immediate tone of what you've been playing, or you can have it to hold it down while it's in use and then let it go. And that's, you can have it as a momentary or a latching system. And then you've got the effect level. So I always found it helpful, especially because I did most of my playing in church. So it was helpful to always have something like this. If you didn't have a keyboard player or they weren't particularly experienced in doing pad sounds, you could just use the freeze pedal to hold a chord as you were playing something over the top. Helps to fill out that sound a little bit more, especially if you have a delay pedal. You get that nice sort of repeating sound with a constant tone running through it. That's always fun. Next one, I've never ever plugged this pedal in. I inherited it. Someone moved overseas, and someone thought of me and passed it through, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, so I can't really comment too much on that, to be honest. This is a vintage Boss CE2. I don't know enough about it, to be honest, but this sounds amazing. So it's a very, very special pedal, the typical Boss style jack. So this is like probably early 80s, somewhere like 82, 83, something like that. Great pedal. That's that classic chorus sound. Of course, it was after the CE1, which is more of a keyboard chorus pedal. And then they made this compact version, the CE2, slightly different circuit, but obviously going on the same vein. This pedal here was made by a friend of mine called Andre Lam, his last name was. And this is based off the Marshall Bluesbreaker 1 circuit. So if you ever see the Bluesbreaker overdrive pedal, this is basically what that is based off. That the Bluesbreaker circuit is probably my favorite overdrive circuit. It's not mid-humped specifically like a Tube Screamer is. It's more of an even balance. And this was his version of it. And then it had these pole switches on there. So there was an overdrive circuit and a boost circuit you could switch between. And then there was a bright switch that you could switch on and off. And so that was, or a bass cut, one of the two. Very versatile, nice pedal, not a lot of gain, but that's kind of the point of the Bluesbreaker. It wasn't meant to be a high gain pedal. This next pedal is the Eternity pedal made by a company called Lovepedal. This is probably my favorite overdrive pedal I've ever owned, that's for sure. Not much to go on the back there. But this was, again, this was like a hand-wired version. They did a version that was, I guess, more of a mass market approach, but they sounded quite different. I was fortunate enough to try this one out beside a production version when I was over in the US once. I bought this at a guitar store in LA, and the hand-wired version, hands down, was much smoother, much nicer sounding. It's quite a bright pedal and quite a lot of gain in there. It does quite a lot of things. So I'd highly recommend checking it out if you have the opportunity to. I don't think there's as many of them around now. I haven't actually checked for a while, but it's a magical sounding pedal. This one is cool too, Boss Super Overdrive. Now this is a classic. I actually don't know when this one was made. It's not an old one by any means. I was playing in a band, probably 2007, 2008, and we were doing a bunch of gigs, and the keyboard player in the band actually had this pedal, and he used to track guitars when he was producing tracks at home, and I really wanted one, and so I actually traded a BBE Sonic Stomp for this pedal, and he was looking for something like what I had, and I wanted this. So we did a direct swap, and I've had this on the board ever since. Now this is more of the Tube Screamer vein of thing. It's got the same op amp chip in it, so it's got that mid hump thing going on. I really like it. I actually find that a lot of amps like this pedal, and it's been used from everybody from Zakk Wylde to The Edge to Don Felder. It's popular for a reason. It's a great pedal. Now this pedal here, the Ernie Ball volume pedal, this is the Junior, and this has the tuner output, the in and out. Now this pedal's actually broken. It's been one of those pedals that's been on my list to fix over the years. I tried to fix it at one point. You can sort of see I did my own string in the bottom there, which it looks like it should work. I'll get that out of the way. But yeah, never never quite worked properly, which is a shame. But the action on the Ernie Ball volume pedals is really nice and smooth. It's not the perfect volume pedal. You do get a lot of top end loss from it, and as I said, the string snapped originally, so I switched it out for a different volume pedal and bought this, and bought a different one, and always promised myself that I'd fix this, but never got around to it. This pedal here, the Super Hard-On, again, this is a hand-painted version from Zvex. They make great pedals, really cool, interesting pedals that are always a little bit different. Highly recommend checking them out too. This actually has double output on it, and this has the sort of upgraded power plate, because the originals only had batteries, so you actually couldn't get power into them unless you bought the external power plate, so that was pretty cool. Now, I actually was gifted this from a friend of mine over in Singapore, and very grateful. We were talking about it one night at dinner, and I said I was so interested in checking one out. Just got the volume knob there. That's just the one thing it does pretty much is just a really loud boost. And then he even wrote this message here, which is pretty fun. Dear Hoodie, may you always be a big blessing with your Super Hard-On. Love, Jen. Back in 2013. Okay, so I've had that for a long time now. Great sounding pedal. You'll see lots of guys using this, particularly studio guys. So like Tim Pierce swears by this one. That's the Gigrig, the power generator. Now I think they've updated that over the years too, but pretty much for the longest time, that was the most powerful power supply on the market. So 5,000 milliamps or 5 amps, and that powered everything from the switcher to all of the pedals on the board. There's definitely a better way to do the power with all of the filters and things like that. I never got round to it. I just daisy changed everything most of the time, and because it was such a good power unit, I never really had any troubles with it. Now, you'll notice that I don't have any delay or reverb pedals on here, and that's because I actually sold quite a few of them on over the years, and I've never really replaced them, but it is one thing I'll get around to. And that's why I have the Boss FS5U switch here, which I'll swing that around the right way. This is basically a momentary foot switch for tapping in tempos. So if you've got a delay pedal with an external tap, I know a lot of the Boss delays have them now. I've owned many Boss delays over the years. I had a couple of DD5s for a while. I had a DD6 to start with, and I had a Boss DD20, and they were all great. I ended up with a Strymon, the Timeline, after a while. That was the best sounding for sure, but a very power hungry pedal, so I had to run that off its own thing. And this, when I was talking earlier about the Blue Box, I had inherited that pedal at the same time I got this, which is basically the opposite version of the FS5U, which is a momentary foot switch. And then you've got the FS5L, which is the latching foot switch. So that's if you want to, change channels on an amp or something like that, you can click it once and it goes across. Or if you've got like a boost mode within a pedal, sometimes they support a latching function and you can use it there. And I've not really used it myself before, but it's on the board in case I ever do want it. I do have a couple of pedals here that are not on the board at the moment. They're in boxes and I haven't really used them or pulled them out for a while, but a little trip down memory lane here. So I hope you guys found that interesting. If you're curious about any of the tech or how it sounds or anything, let me know, because I can always go a little bit further in depth of how it all sounds and where I've used it, because chances are if you know some of the work I've done, you'll have heard a bunch of these things over the years. It's a lot of fun to go through all of this again, so maybe I'll do a bit more of it in the future. But thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.